Thank you so much to introduce Kinetic Potential and our cybersecurity program. My name is Jim Smith, and I'm CEO. And our motto here is be a part of someone's success. And so I'm thinking about you when I mention that. How can we be a part of your success? And to encourage you, the first thing I would want to say is that everyone can go pro. And that's how I want you to think about your career, that you're going to be a professional. You're not just going to get a job, but you're going to have a career and you're going to be a professional at that career. And we're here to help prepare you. So let me just tell you a little bit about what the work we do here at Kinetic Potential, a little bit different than some of the other organizations you may be familiar with. One, we really focus on, as a social impact organization, we really want to help people who are facing barriers to employment. So who are those people? Folks who are graduating from high school who may not be going to college, maybe someone who's coming out who's just aging out of foster care system. College students who don't have the actual experience to get jobs and who are making a significant investment in their education, but there's a gap in terms of their experience to actually be in place in the workforce. Working with our workforce development board partners who are supporting dislocated worker, veterans, people who are coming out of public housing authorities. These are the folks who we're focused on in terms of helping to actually get into careers with high earning potential. And one of the strategies that we feel best support these populations is to think about careers in media and technology. And to that end, we've been asked by the Maryland Department of Information Technology to run apprenticeship programs to help bring these individuals through a training process, through a training program, so that they can ultimately become state employees with the state of Maryland. Let me talk a little bit more about how we execute on that, and also talk a little bit more about how we approach our work. The first thing I want you to know, as I mentioned, this idea about talent portfolios. So when we think about helping people, we think about a portfolio of people. In this case, we're thinking about 200 participants that we can support to get into media and technology in the Maryland, DC area and across the country. Cybersecurity is the highest paying IT career field. IT project management is in direct demand based on what our clients are asking us for. And digital media editors, I think everyone knows now that we're on Zoom and Teams and Meet, that there's so much more content that needs to be manipulated. These careers and this strategy we have to build a portfolio of 200 people with an average salary of $76,000. Now that is a combination of heavily favored toward cybersecurity because that is one of the highest highest careers in demand, and there's over 3.1 million unfilled job openings available today. Let me go on and talk a little bit more about how we get there. So for cybersecurity, I mentioned that it's the highest paying IT career field with an average starting salary of about $81,000, right? It can be a little higher, can be a little bit lower, but on average, $81,000. Now, a traditional path that we were able to work with you while we ideally had you in high school, we would start you with A plus, Network plus, and then Security plus. But we've revised our program so that this program I'm talking about today, people are able to go directly to the Security plus. Now, remember, that's a commitment that suggests that you have some basic understanding about technology, about the inner workings of a computer, about networks, and that you have a high interest in learning more. So that's what we're looking for, someone who can demonstrate to us that if you haven't had that background, you haven't been in technology, that you would be willing to make the investment in yourself throughout this program, this 12-week program, to actually learn. Now, we think that that's very possible, but it's for a certain type of student. Okay, if you haven't been a student, you don't like learning, this may not be the right situation for you. If you want something that goes a little bit slower, this is a very aggressive approach in terms of getting into the cybersecurity field. Okay, the target population, as I mentioned, are people who are in some level of transitioning veteran, leaving the military. someone who's graduating from high school, someone who has been in K-12 educator, but now wants to leave the classroom and go into something else, or someone who, because of the pandemic or other reason, are currently dislocated and they're looking for an in-demand field that they can get into. Those are the folks that we've designed this program for, and you can help us ascertain if you fit that profile. So let me just talk about the structure of the program. You can think of the program as being structured in 3 components. First, formal training. Think about this as a boot camp. How are we going to get you the knowledge so that you really know about the ins and outs of cybersecurity? Okay, and this is not everything as it relates to cybersecurity. This program is really primarily about management and policy, helping organizations develop the right policies and procedures to manage their data in a very safe manner, having procedures so that they understand if there was an incident, how they're going to respond, things of that nature. This is book work. Okay, this is really when you're going to be acquiring the knowledge and you're preparing for the Security Plus examination. Okay, so we can go through and look at all the components of the Security Plus examination. We're going to make sure we cover each of those elements, taking about 2 weeks to kind of focus on the actual content, and then about 2 weeks to actually focus on the exam itself. Okay, because we want you to be successful. Now, if it's Kinetic Potential, or you're coming through one of our workforce development partners or one of our other partners, your success is critical for others to be able to come through and take the same program. Okay, so we want you to take this very seriously. It is a commitment to actually get through this. We all have personal lives and lots of things going on, so you have to be prepared to prioritize this learning experience as something that you are making a commitment to invest in yourself so that you can get to the other side. Once you successfully do that, however, we know that just getting a certification, getting the Security Plus certification alone won't get you a job, won't make you as marketable as if you had some actual experience. So what we do as the second component is we actually build in an experiential learning component so that you can actually work on a project. So for this program, the participants in this program will actually do an audit, a live audit with one of our partners, a nonprofit organization, a charter school, a government agency, small business that lacks these capabilities that really will benefit from the knowledge that you acquire through your boot camp so that you can then demonstrate that you have the skills and the abilities and build a portfolio so that you can actually talk to employers about what you've done and not just what you've learned in a classroom. The third component is career management. We don't want you to think about getting into cybersecurity as the end game. Okay, the other slogan we have here is lifelong learning equals lifelong earning. The field of technology is moving so quickly, so we're looking for people who are willing to continuously invest in themselves and think about managing your career, right? It's one thing to go pro, but to stay a pro, to stay in the game, you got to keep your skills sharp, okay? And so we're going to help you think about how you do that and build a plan for not just getting the next year, but the next 4 years. What's really critical about our program and what really separates us is this experiential learning so that you can actually build skills by doing the task. Okay, so there's a period of time we're going to show you how to actually conduct an audit, and then you're going to actually execute an audit. We're a live customer. Okay, this is not any kind of book study. This is actual live consulting work that you'll be able to put on your resume. You'll be able to reference the client that you worked on with, and oftentimes you will receive a recommendation if you do a great job from that client. So that really speaks volume as you're looking in to market yourself for new opportunities in the workplace. So you're going to be able to demonstrate that, and you also be able to earn some incentives while you're going along. Okay, and for those who are exceptional, our top talent, we are looking to convert them into employees for ourselves as a primary objective of why we do this. And then secondly, for our partners like Maryland Do It, Maryland Department of Information Technology, or these other nonprofits and small businesses that don't have those capabilities today. So our focus is placement and getting you in. It's not just training you, but this is a strategy for how we're going to help get you into the marketplace. Let me talk a little bit about the timeline. Generally, it's going to take about 12 weeks. And you can think of it somewhere between 220 to 240, 60 hours worth of actual time of learning and investment from you. That's the bare minimum. Now, many of you, if you don't have A+ or Network Plus, you're going to have to go above and beyond. So when I talk about a commitment, this is what I'm referencing. If you have no experience with cybersecurity, you really don't know what it's fully about, then what I recommend is our 3-day Intro to Cyber course. This is going to explore all aspects of cybersecurity so that you can make a decision if you want to go into digital forensics or something more technical. But this program is about management and policy, as I've mentioned. Okay, so the first decision point is making sure that this is something that fits your career interests, right? And that it's going to be something that you want to be a professional in, and that you're making the investment in your time and balancing and prioritizing this effort. The next set of green boxes is actually preparing for the Security Plus examination. The way that we've got it scheduled, we anticipate you're spending about 20 hours a week for the first 2 weeks in terms of just kind of learning about the various elements and all of the learning objectives associated with understanding cybersecurity from a management and policy perspective. Those of you who need that additional kind of understanding about how technology, the hardware and how technology is structured, as well as kind of the network element, which are also important for the Security Plus exam, there will be some additional material for you to study so that you can really get yourself prepared for the security exam. We will provide, again, 2 weeks, again, anticipating about 20 hours of actual exam prep. What's the difference between the actual knowledge in terms of the kind of boot camp and then the exam prep? One is focused on teaching you about cybersecurity. The other is about teaching you to prepare for the exam. 2 different skill sets. Those who are successful, right, and come out of this will then go into our Consulting 101, which is training you how to actually be a consultant. How do you actually engage with clients? How do you actually conduct interviews? How do you write professional emails? How do you actually do the due diligence work required? And then how do you do a readout to a client about what you learned and present it to them in a very consultative way? That's a 4-week process that we're going to actually teach you how to actually do that in preparation for what you see in these purple boxes, 4 weeks of actually conducting a live audit with a live client. During this period, in terms of these last 4 weeks, this is when we're also really focusing on job placement, right? We want that to go on in parallel. We're evaluating you. KP is evaluating from the time we meet you all the way through this process to see if you'd be a good fit for some of our existing positions. Not just in cybersecurity, but in technology or anything we have. We're always looking for great people. But also, obviously, as I mentioned, our partners, Maryland Department of Information Technology, some of our housing authority partners, some of our K-12 school system partners, they're also hiring and looking for employees, and they're looking for us to bring talent to them. So during this process, that's what we're evaluating while we're allowing you to conduct this audit, creating value for you so that you can build a portfolio, but also creating a lot of value for our partners that don't have this internal capability. At the conclusion of this, like you see for professional sports, we'll have a draft, and we will certainly draft those who fit our profile. Some of our partners will actually draft those who fit their profile. And for those who may not get drafted, don't worry, we're still here working with you to get you placed in other opportunities. Again, this is about a 12-week effort, not including the Intro to Cyber for those who feel like that would be valuable for them to start with. Okay, so when we do our experiential learning, we're doing those audits, we use our US Cyber Core brand. right? We're signaling to our partners that these individuals are focused on this content area and they're ready to do an audit. So let me just give you a quick use case that has some additional video that you can look at and review that speak to some learners that have already participated in this program. So I'm going to start from right to left. In terms of the Maryland Department of Information Technology, when COVID hit and we went into the pandemic, as you know, a lot of K-12 school systems had to push a lot of their services online, right? Virtual school. Well, a lot of school systems weren't really prepared for that. You know, they hadn't really thought about the implications to delivering all these services online from a data management and safety perspective. So the Maryland Department of Information Technology put out a memo giving them guidance on what they needed to do to make sure that they were operating in a safe and in a very informed manner. And what we heard from our partners is that they couldn't actually implement on that. They didn't really understand what a lot of those terms meant. And so this was a great opportunity for us to bring individuals who are cyber consultants who have just gone through our training. Some of the folks who went through our IT project management, as I talked in the beginning, part of our media and technology IT project management, so that they can focus on actually helping execute against the edict and the instructions given by the Maryland Department of Information Technology. This is what you'll get to do for different organizations that have different issues, but the same value proposition in terms of being able to support them. So I thank you so much for your time. I hope to get to meet a number of you in the coming days and hope to see many of you in our program this coming January.